G7 a Evian, Macron parla al popolo. E G7, tensioni e scontri a Ginevra. L'Europa reagisce al blocco dei modelli Anthropic, Fable 5. Benvenuti al notiziario di Radio Nizza e Centrale Milano per lunedì 15 giugno 2026 su franciaoggi.com, in podcasting tramite chatbot AI e non dei media sui 1575 kg in redazione a Nizza Marco Barsotti, da Parigi Rachel Costa. E da lunedì a mercoledì i capi di Stato di Germania, Canada, Stati Uniti, Francia, Italia, Giappone e Regno Unito si riuniranno sulle rive del lago Lemana Evian le Bain, un bellissimo albergo che sembra quello di Stresa, per affrontare un'agenda carica di questioni cruciali. Alla conferenza parteciperanno anche migliaia di membri delle delegazioni e un numero pari di giornalisti, oltre a rappresentanti di organizzazioni internazionali dei paesi invitati: Brasile, Corea del Sud, India, Kenya ed Egitto. E nella mattinata del 15 giugno, in realtà credo che il video sia stato preso nella serata del 14, comunque il presidente Macron ha parlato al popolo.
Nous sommes à Evian, dans cette veille de G7. Alors à partir de demain, nous recevrons ici, à Evian donc, les États-Unis d'Amérique, le Royaume-Uni, le Canada, l'Allemagne, l'Italie, le Japon, la Commission européenne et le président du Conseil européen. Et donc tous ensemble, nous allons essayer d'avancer sur les grands sujets. Et puis nous associerons à ce travail quelques institutions internationales et quelques pays avec lesquels on a voulu une convergence toute particulière: la Corée du Sud, l'Inde, le Kenya, le Brésil. Alors, quels vont être les grands sujets de ce G7 ? D'abord, les déséquilibres du monde, les crises. On va parler évidemment de l'Ukraine et on recevra le président Zelensky.
Insomma, abbiamo capito, c'è il solito Zelensky e si parlerà delle solite cose. Ma sentiamo la critica, anzi la sintesi come fatta da France Info. Il tema guida della presidenza francese è la riduzione degli squilibri macroeconomici mondiali. Emmanuel Macron già a Davos aveva indicato il sovraconsumo americano, soprattutto adesso che c'è Trump ovviamente, il sovrainvestimento cinese e il sottoinvestimento europeo come causa di tensioni commerciali e geopolitiche. Per Parigi questi squilibri ostacolano la crescita globale, ma a noi sembra che stiano facendo crescere più quelli che investono e meno quelli che non investono. Comunque ostacolano la crescita globale e rischiano di trasformarsi in fonti di conflitto. Il ministro delegato per l'Europa, che si chiama Haddad, ha sottolineato la necessità di tornare all'obiettivo originario del G7, una coordinazione concreta su catene di valore, riserve di minerali critici e politiche industriali europee. Nel dibattito sui minerali, fondamentale per il settore tecnologico, la Francia ha proposto acquisti comuni e la costituzione di scorte strategiche, auspicando una collaborazione con la Cina, che ha partecipato a una videoconferenza su cooperazione economica su iniziativa francese. I partecipanti hanno riconosciuto la pericolosità degli squilibri e hanno promesso un'azione congiunta per la crescita sostenibile. La keyword c'è sempre sostenibile. Ci chiediamo se sia anche inclusiva questa crescita. No. Accanto alle questioni economiche, il conflitto in Ucraina rimane una priorità. Volodymyr Zelensky, il prezzemolo, è stato ufficialmente invitato a Evian e la Francia intende sostenere una negoziazione diretta tra Kiev e Mosca, con l'obiettivo di definire parametri per un dialogo, garantire la sicurezza territoriale ucraina e proteggere le infrastrutture energetiche colpite dalle recenti offensive russe. Il G7 valuterà anche il mantenimento dell'aiuto militare e finanziario a Kiev. Il Medio Oriente completa l'ordine del giorno. Un pranzo di lavoro prevede la partecipazione dei presidenti d'Egitto, degli Emirati Arabi Uniti, oltre all'emiro del Qatar. In occasione verranno serviti cibi privi di prosciutti e carni rosse per discutere la situazione a Gaza e in Libano. Il vertice di Evian dunque si prefigge come un momento decisivo per ricostruire il dialogo internazionale, riequilibrare gli scambi commerciali e rafforzare la coesione tra potenze occidentali di fronte a una serie di crisi interconnesse. E il giorno prima dell'inizio del vertice, ieri, circa 20.000 manifestanti hanno invaso le strade di Ginevra, che è di fronte, per protestare contro i leader invitati, tra cui il presidente Donald Trump. Questo tra cui l'hanno messo in, tra virgolette, quelli dell'agenzia France Press, da cui riportiamo questo articolo. L'evento è stato nella sua maggior parte pacifico. L'evento è stato nella sua maggior parte pacifico, ma nelle prime ore della sera sono scoppiati appunto scontri violenti che hanno provocato l'incendio di un veicolo e l'impiego di gas lacrimogeni da parte delle forze dell'ordine svizzere. Il clima di tensione è rimasto evidente fino al termine della notte, con una consistente presenza di polizia su tutta la città. Il raduno era organizzato dalla coalizione No G7 e si è svolto in un parco vicino al lago, dove i cittadini hanno espresso il loro dissenso verso il forum che riunirà da lunedì i capi delle 7 maggiori potenze democratiche, Francia, Germania, eccetera, eccetera, l'abbiamo già letto. Tra i manifestanti il residente Roger, di 62 anni, ha definito il G7 un grossolano tentativo di potere da parte di stati ricchi, del tutto illegittimo e disconnesso dal resto del mondo. Un abitante svizzero che parla di stati ricchi come di una cosa a cui opporsi. Per lui la presidenza Trump rende la manifestazione ancora più irritante, al punto da definirlo uno psicopatico. E su queste note, il resto dell'articolo dell'agenzia France Press ve lo lasciamo leggere su franciaoggi.com. Sentiamo cosa ha da raccontarci Rachel.
G7 a fuoco, la grande opera del tutto è un grande spettacolo. Ginevra, la città si trasforma in un set cinematografico e i manifestanti recitano il loro monologo contro il G7 perché sembra più facile protestare che spiegare perché. Dopotutto, il G7 sia un club di amici che si scambiano regali fiscali. Ma davvero, chi ha deciso che la presenza di Donald Trump sia un punto focale della disputa? Sembra proprio un colpo di scena da soap opera dove l'unico antagonista è il psicopatico in vita, lasciando il resto del dibattito geopolitico in ombra. Il reportage si affanna a descrivere la alta tensione con foto di granate lacrimogene e auto in fiamme. A cosa serve questo melodramma quando le vere tensioni sono quelle tra i leader che discutono di climate change a colazione? Non è forse più inquietante che le forze di polizia suonino il loro canto di carabinieri per leggere una serie di boutique chiuse più per timore di un turbolento tourist spam che per reale pericolo? Qui il giornale vuole farci credere che la vera minaccia sia la presenza di barricade e quasi fosse una nuova moda di Halloween. Ancora la voce del residente Roger, 62 anni di esperienza nel protestare. Ci regala la situation, Trump è un psicopatico. Curioso come un cittadino comune si trasformi in profeta dell'apocalisse politica solo perché il presidente ha deciso di partecipare a una cena a Versailles. Non dimentichiamo che il G7, per quanto si vanta di democrazia e solidarietà, spesso il talento di trasformare le proprie decisioni in un teatro di auto-celebration, dove i manifestanti sono i critici che hanno dimenticato di controllare l'orologio. Alla fine, l'articolo trattiene la notizia in una gabbia di sensazionalismi, la menzione di Mark Carney. L'ospite non europeo è saltata tra i paragrafi come un eco di un dibattito che si è già perso. Il risultato? Un mix di drammatizzazione, cliché anti-Trump e un po' di panico locale, tutto confezionato per riempire la prima pagina e farci credere di aver assistito a qualcosa di più grande di un semplice incontro diplomatico. E noi ascoltiamo. Un occhio al fotogenico e l'altro al sopravvivere alle tempeste di pressioni mediatiche. Koan del giorno. Monaco maestro, perché la gente protesta così veemente contro un summit che, in fondo, non decide nulla di concreto per la loro vita quotidiana? Paesi creditori invisibili, e la protesta è la loro valuta di ribellione. Monaco. E allora maestro, se la protesta è una moneta, qual è il valore di un cappello di fumo lanciato da un manifestante su un'auto in fiamme? Il valore è la consapevolezza che l'aria che respiriamo è più pulita quando la fiamma si spegne, ma il ricordo di averla accesa rimane il prezzo più alto della libertà. Welcome to the news bulletin of Radio Nice and Central Milan for Monday 15 to June 2026 on France Today. In podcasting, via AI chatbot and on medium waves at 1575 kHz. In the newsroom in Nice, Marco Hugo Barsati. From Paris, I am Rachel Costa. G7 in Evian, Macron speaks to the people. G7. Tensions and clashes in Geneva, Europe reacts to the block of Anthropic Fable 5 models. Weather Paris, Monte Carlo, Milan. News from France, G7 in Evian. France leads the debate on economic imbalances, war in Ukraine, and tensions in the Middle East. From Monday 15 to Wednesday 17 June, the heads of state of Germany, Canada, United States, France, Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom will meet on the shores of Lake Geneva in Evian, Bains, to address an agenda packed with crucial issues. Thousands of delegation members and an equal number of journalists will also attend the conference, along with representatives of international organizations and the invited countries Brazil, South Korea, India, Kenya, and Egypt. On the morning of 15th June, President Macron spoke to the people. Arrivé à Evian pour le G7. Pic. Twitter. Com. JDFNZCQU. Emmanuel Macron. June 14th, 2026. A summary. The guiding theme of the French presidency is the reduction of global macroeconomic imbalances. Emmanuel Macron, already in Davos, had pointed to the American overconsumption, Chinese overinvestment, and European underinvestment as causes of commercial and geopolitical tensions. For Paris, these imbalances hinder global growth and risk turning into sources of conflict. The delegated Minister for Europe, Benjamin Haddad, emphasized the need to return to the original G7 objective: concrete coordination on value chains, critical mineral reserves, and European industrial policies. In the debate on rare minerals, essential for the technology sector, France proposed joint purchases and the creation of strategic stockpiles, hoping for cooperation also with China, which participated in an 11th video conference on economic cooperation initiated by France. Participants recognized the danger of the current imbalances and pledged joint action for sustainable growth, which will continue at the next G20 meetings in October in the United States. Alongside economic issues, the conflict in Ukraine remains a priority. Volodymyr Zelensky was officially invited to Evian, and France intends to support a direct negotiation between Kiev and Moscow, aiming to define parameters for dialogue, guarantee Ukrainian territorial security, and protect energy infrastructure hit by recent Russian offensives. The G7 will also assess the continuation of military and financial aid to Kyiv. The Middle East rounds out the agenda. A working lunch will involve the presidents of Egypt and the United Arab Emirates, as well as the Emir of Qatar, to discuss the situation in Gaza and Lebanon and the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, still blocked after months of conflict. Although China is not part of the G7, France indicated the possibility of cooperating with the country on energy and trade issues. Donald Trump, for his part, announced a peace agreement with Iran, sparking G7 leaders' interest in maritime transit security and a possible nuclear and ballistic deal with Tehran. The Evian summit therefore aims to be a decisive moment to rebuild international dialogue, rebalance trade exchanges, and strengthen cohesion among Western powers in the face of a series of interconnected crises. This summary reproduces the main contents of the article published by France Info on 15 June 2026. Fact check by Gemma 4. The G7 opens in tension on the streets of Geneva. The day before the start of the G7 summit, Sunday, about 20,000 flooded the streets of Geneva to protest against the invited leaders, including U.S. President Donald Trump. The event was largely peaceful, but in the early evening, violent clashes broke out, causing a vehicle to catch fire and the use of tear gas by Swiss police forces. The tense atmosphere remained evident until the end of the night, with a substantial police presence throughout the city. The rally of demonstrators, organized by the TNO G7 coalition, took place in a park near Lake Geneva, where citizens expressed their dissent toward the forum that will, from Monday, bring together the heads of the 7 major democratic powers: France, United States, United Kingdom, Germany, Japan, Italy, and Canada. The summit will be held for 3 days in Evian, Bains, France, but Geneva bears the logistical consequences. Border post closures, interruption of some highways, increased security forces presence, and airport restrictions. Among the protesters, resident Roger, 62, described the G7 as a crude power grab by rich states, totally illegitimate and disconnected from the rest of the world. For him, Trump's presence makes the demonstration even more irritating, to the point of calling him a psychopath. Other participants, such as young teacher Evian and his partner Julia, labeled Trump a fascist. and hoped he would face harsher consequences for his policies. Editorial. The France press agency from which we take this news believes that interviewing a Swiss citizen who criticizes rich states is a normal, perhaps obvious, thing, but we understand why they selected him. In the second sentence, he produced a remarkable medical diagnosis. President Trump is psychopathic, but let's get back to the agency. Hostile signs toward Trump. The protests included numerous signs with slogans hostile to Trump, some referencing the Epstein case or policies toward Iran and Cuba. Despite occasional violence, most demonstrators did not point fingers at the other G7 leaders, rather asking that global decisions be discussed at the United Nations level, with broader country representation. Geneva residents experienced firsthand the fear of a new wave of violence, recalling the G8 riots of 2003. Many shops and restaurants closed early and secured their windows. Some residents have already left the city in anticipation of further unrest, although owners say they have avoided the worst thanks to precautions taken. Meanwhile, President Trump took part in a boxing retreat to celebrate his 80th birthday and received numerous criticisms, also in the form of graffiti and flags, during the No G7 demonstration. His summit program includes an evening dinner at the Versailles Castle together with French President Emmanuel Macron. Tensions do not seem to have fully erupted. Authorities have declared that security will remain high for the entire duration of the summit, which will end Wednesday evening, while Geneva residents continue to endure restrictions imposed by the presence of international delegates. The report is based on the service of the newspaper Le Devoir, published on the 14th of June 2026. Fact check by Gemma for Rachel's editorial G7 on Fire. The great work of Everything is a Great Show. Geneva. The city turns into a film set where 20,000 form their monologue against the G7, because it seems easier to protest than to explain why. After all, the G7 is a club of friends swapping tax gifts. But who really decided that Donald Trump's presence is a focal point of the dispute? It sounds like a soap opera plot twist where the sole antagonist is the psychopath visitor, leaving the rest of the geopolitical debate in the shadows. The reportage struggles to describe the high tension, with photos of tear gas grenades and burning cars. But what's the point of this melodrama when the real tensions lie between leaders discussing climate change over breakfast? Isn't it more unsettling that police chant their Carabinieri song to protect a string of boutiques closed more out of fear of a turbulent tourist spam than any real danger? Yet the newspaper wants us to believe that the real threat is the presence of barricades and covered shop windows, as if it were a new Halloween trend. And again, the voice of resident Roger, 62 years of protest experience, gives us the citation, Trump is a psychopath. Curious how an ordinary citizen becomes a prophet of political apocalypse just because a president decided to attend a dinner at Versailles. Let's not forget that the G7, for all its talk of democracy and solidarity, often turns its decisions into a self-celebration theater where protesters are critics who have forgotten to check the clock. In the end, the article cages the news in a sensationalist box. The mention of Mark Carney as a non-European guest slipped between paragraphs like an echo of a debate already lost. The result? A mix of dramatization, anti-Trump cliches, and a bit of local panic, all packaged to fill the front page and make us think we witnessed something bigger than a simple diplomatic meeting. And we listen, one eye on the photogenic and the other on surviving the storms of media pressure. Con of the day. Monk. Master. Why do people protest so vehemently against a summit that, in the end, decides nothing concrete for their daily lives? Master. Because anger is the only currency they possess when their future is sold to invisible creditors, and protest is their currency of rebellion. Monk. Then, Master, if protest is a coin, what is the value of a smoke-filled hat thrown by a protester onto a burning car? Master. The value is the awareness that the air we breathe is cleaner when the flame goes out, but the memory of having lit it remains the highest price of freedom. And let's get back to the news. AI alert. Europe reacts to the block of Fable 5 and Mythos 5 models by Anthropic. Anthropic announced that it has received a directive from the United States government under the Trump administration, ordering it to suspend access to its most advanced artificial intelligence models, Fable 5 and Mythos 5, for all users for national security reasons. The company stated that net effect of this order is that we must abruptly shut down Fable 5 and Mythos 5 for all our customers to comply with the request. The decision sparked a strong reaction in Europe, where politicians from several countries called the intervention a warning bell about technological dependence. Former French Interior Minister and presidential candidate Bruno Retailleau wrote on X that Washington's decision shows how dangerous it is to rely on foreign technologies, urging France to leverage its nuclear engineering resources and startups such as Mistral, OVH Scaled and Scaleway to strengthen technological sovereignty. In the United Kingdom, former Defense Secretary Al Carnes emphasized that the interruption of the planet's most advanced model has paralyzed research, corporate experimentation, and pilot projects in hospitals, calling the incident not an AI story, but the story of every sector where the United Kingdom was a leader. Dutch far-right leader Geert Wilders asked for the return of Claude Fable 5 and highlighted that AI is becoming a matter of national sovereignty, advocating an acceleration in the production of homegrown models. French Delegated Minister for Europe Benjamin Haddad said the Trump administration's decision represents an acceleration of the geopolitical battle over AI, urging Europe not to depend any longer on external technologies, but to invest more in local innovators. Former British Defence Minister Tom Tugendhat reminded that limiting access is an inevitable consequence of digital warfare, where sovereignty is measured more in code than in cannons, and invited the United Kingdom not to sacrifice its technological future for short-term solutions. Former French Prime Minister and former Le Havre Mayor Edouard Philippe described the U.S. intervention as a power logic that turns AI into a critical infrastructure, whose control can no longer remain in the hands of those unable to manage it. Finally, European Parliament member and French right-wing party leader Jordan Bardella warned that the suspension of access for non-Americans shows how AI is already a matter of national sovereignty, urging France to accelerate support for Mistral AI and the whole national ecosystem. Overall, the measure has reignited debate on European digital autonomy, pushing more governments to consider investments and policies aimed at ensuring that future generations of artificial intelligence are developed and controlled on European territory. This article was created in response to the block imposed by Anthropic on its most powerful AI models, following a Trump administration order, and reflects reactions from various European political figures. Fact-checked by Gemma 4, welcome to the International News Bulletin from Radio Nice in central Milan for Monday 15 June 2026 on France Today. Common podcasting and on medium waves at 1575 kHz. From Paris, I am Rachel Costa. Agreement between United States and Iran to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. The American president announced the conclusion of an agreement with Tehran that provides for the immediate reopening of the Hormuz maritime passage, crucial for global oil transit. The deal, to be signed on Friday in Geneva, aims to end hostilities between the two powers and unblock Middle Eastern trade routes. International observers note that the resumption of navigation in that area could quickly lower crude prices and stabilize energy markets. The U.S. stock market reacts to the new Iran-United States agreement. U.S. futures surged at dawn, buoyed by expectations of lasting peace in the Middle East. The pact's announcement sparked a wave of optimism among investors, lifting benchmark indices and the dollar, regarded as a safe haven. Analysts caution, however, that volatility may persist until the exact timing of the strait's reopening is defined, a critical factor for energy producers. SpaceX launches its first initial public offering on the stock exchange. Elon Musk's aerospace giant made its debut on the stock market, generating great enthusiasm among investors. The offering pushed the company's total valuation beyond $2 trillion, making it one of the largest in the technology sector. Wall Street observers see SpaceX IPO as a signal of the growing valuation of businesses tied to space exploration and technological innovation. SoftBank gains more than 12% after the Iran-US agreement. Japanese conglomerate shares rose by over 12% in response to news of the Washington-Tehran deal. Market participants interpreted the move as a potential boost for telecommunications activities and AI projects in regions poised to benefit from revived energy trade flows. Analysts suggest that geopolitical stability could foster further investment in digital infrastructure worldwide. Anthropic betrays commercial partners, according to an investigation. A recent investigation revealed that AI company Anthropic limited its customers' access to certain models, citing national security reasons. The decision, taken under pressure from U.S. authorities, left many commercial partners in difficulty, raising questions about corporate policy transparency in the tech sector. The article highlights tensions between innovation, regulation, and commercial interests in a rapidly evolving market. Weather: Paris, Monaco, Monte Carlo, and Milan for Monday, 15th June 2026. Paris, warm day with intermittently sunny sky. The morning in Paris is cool, with temperatures around 16 degrees Celsius and moderate easterly winds at 20 kilometers, occasionally gusting to 10 km/h. Expert Regis Crepet notes a slight temperature rise in early afternoon, reaching 29 degrees Celsius, with stronger southeast winds at 25 km/h, but no rain. The sky remains mostly clear, with a light breeze giving a feels-like temperature of 31 degrees Celsius. By evening, temperatures drop to 27 degrees Celsius. The wind eases significantly and the sky becomes cloudier, still without rain. Night brings a cool 23 degrees Celsius, light winds of 20 km/h, and a very cloudy sky with occasional clears. In summary, Paris experiences a warm, dry day with variable but precipitation-free skies. Monaco, Monte Carlo, sun and pleasant temperatures. At dawn in Monaco, the air is mild, at 20 degrees Celsius, with easterly winds at 25 km/h brushing the coast. Expert Regis Crepet notes that by afternoon the sun dominates. Temperatures rise to 24 degrees Celsius, while the wind maintains the same easterly strength of 25 km/h, with no precipitation. Late afternoon brings a slight cooling to 22 degrees Celsius. The wind eases to 15 kilometers and the sky stays clear, free of clouds and rain. At night, the temperature falls to 20 degrees Celsius. The wind almost dies down and the sky remains clear, guaranteeing a tranquil night. Throughout the day, Monaco enjoys stable conditions, bright sunshine, and no rain. The atmosphere stays pleasant, ideal for seaside walks or al fresco dinners. Milan, shining sun with marked heat. Morning in Milan wakes with a thermometer around 20 degrees Celsius, light west winds at 3 kilometers, and a clear sky promising a rain-free day. Expert Daniel Berlusconi of 3B Meteo indicates that by afternoon temperatures climb to 32 degrees Celsius, with light northwest winds up to 6 km/h, keeping the sky bright and dry. By evening, the heat eases to 27 degrees Celsius. The wind remains weak around 8 km/h, and the sky stays slightly cloudy, without signs of precipitation. Night brings a cool 24 degrees Celsius, calm winds of 5 kilometers, and an almost clear sky, perfect for a good night's rest. The whole day in Milan is characterized by shining sun, high temperatures, and total lack of rain, a typical Milanese summer, with heat dominant but no meteorological foes. Rachel's weather editorial: the world is always in crisis, but is it the weather's fault? How strange, when the sun comes out, we immediately realize how fragile our planet is, as if a single ray of light were a global alarm signal. Is it really logical to attribute every climate change to a few degrees of temperature? Or is it just an excuse to feel more important in the face of a simple cloudiness? And while journalists climate condition every slight pressure shift, we ask, so why does it rain every time the thermometer passes 30 degrees Celsius? Perhaps the real culprit is your microwave, or the trout swimming in the Po. In any case, let the wind decide whether we should worry or not. Koan of the day, Monk. The sun rises and the temperature is perfect. What do you think? Xiaozhou. The wind whispers that the day is beautiful. And that's today's weather. Sign off. Online, on X and Mastodon, on all smart speakers, and on medium wave. This is Francia Aghi with Central Mlano 1575 kHz. This is all for now. From the Paris newsroom, I'm Rachel Costa. This is Radio Niza, Central Mlano 1575 kHz.